Hello and welcome to the Story Behind the Stories, your weekly look at the pages of the Neepawa Banner Press. Welcome once again to the show right here on NAC TV. I'm Eoin Devereux, news reporter with the Banner Press. Glad that you're going to be able to take a little bit of your time and spend it in 2023 with us. I'm joined this week by Casper Wehrhahn. Casper, good to have you in.
Thanks for having me here, and a few more pages to go through this week compared to last week. Jam-packed full of a few different things related to local news.
That's right. Now, for those of you that maybe watch over the years or pick up the paper on a consistent basis, you do know, or maybe you've noticed, or maybe you haven't, who knows, that January usually turns into a bit of a lull period. The pages of the paper are a little bit smaller than they are later on in the year, maybe not as many big news stories. It's that sort of post-Christmas sort of lull that almost everyone in the media industry deals with. I remember I've had to deal with it many a time actually in larger markets when I was working in radio in Brandon and Portage. It's just everybody's just sort of tuckered out, they're a little worn down from the rigors of the holidays, because Casper, I imagine same, it can take a little bit out of you. So.
Yeah, for sure, and I mean, people coming out of holiday mode, so still gearing up and getting back into things, but yeah, it's definitely slower in January compared to other months.
The interesting thing is, though, the first couple papers we've had in January, we've been maybe the exception as opposed to the rule. I'm very pleased to be able to say that. Last week, unfortunately, the main story was the fire over the holiday season in Gladstone. This week, it's a little bit more of an uplifting story on the front page, a little more positivity. We are welcoming our first newborn for Neepawa and area in 2023. We like to do this. We try and make it an annual tradition to sort of showcase and to help celebrate this a family sort of moment of joy. This year, the youngster was born on January 2nd, 847. Abigail Thelma Kleinsaucer, I believe is how it's pronounced. So congratulations to the family. They got a few other young ones in the family there. So hopefully Abigail will be able to sort of fit right in with the rest of the siblings, and we congratulate the family on that. And we'd love to be able to share these types of good positives in our newspaper, because news sometimes can be a little dry, it can be a little it's like oatmeal. You got to get through it. It's healthy for you. But sometimes we get to share good things and fun things, and this is one of those good things, I think.
Definitely, yeah. It's really awesome to be able to share this sort of thing. And of course, this always comes with a bonus, because the Quilt Guild here typically makes a quilt for the firstborn of the year as well. So we'll hopefully have a picture of that soon too.
Oh, most definitely. And that's why you always got to sort of keep an eye out on the Neepawa Banner Press. Pick up a physical copy of it anywhere in Neepawa or surrounding communities to the Neepawa area. Even in Brandon, we got about 600 or 700 we drop off at specific locations and businesses in Brandon. If you're unable to, though, you can always find it at mywestman.ca. We're going to have a PDF copy of it and a link to issues, our website where we keep it as an archive moving forward. Unless, of course, the internet goes kapooey, then we still got physical copies in the building. That's something most people don't really think of anymore. Physical copies of their stuff. If technology goes kaplooey tomorrow, a lot of us are going to be really messed up.
Oh yeah, I bet. No, it's always good to, if you can, keep a hard copy of something, just so that in case something happens, because you never know, you still have something on hand.
All right, but fortunately the internet's still around. Well, maybe not fortunately. Right, currently the internet is still around, and so are we. And that's why we're glad to be able to share this and this other story on the front page with you. Had an opportunity to go down to the construction site for the new home hardware building that's going up in Neepawa. If you're a loyal reader of the Banner Press, you've been following this story over the last year. It is being constructed on the west side of Neepawa. As you drive into the community or out of the community, You can see it clear as day. It's really popping up there. The exteriors look like they're almost completely done. But I had a chance to go inside. Michelle Gerard, owner and operator for the home hardware here in Neepawa, gave me a tour inside, and I was able to share some of those pictures. You can see one of the pictures on the front page and the rest on the back page, page 16 of this week's edition of the Banner Press. We were a little tight for space, so I wasn't able to go in depth as much with the story as I maybe wanted to this time out, but I got the details, the specifics you need to know and that you want to know. I've got those specifics in there. Mainly, when the darn building's going to be opening up. They're planning on having a soft open in about mid-March. So that's a little bit later. You're going to have to check out the story to get the specifics on why. It's going to be a little bit later than what they'd been hoping for, but that's the situation, Casper, from time to time. Little things when it comes to major construction like this pop up that can push things back. There's no major issues. It's just a lot of little tiny little incidentals that just, it's a day here, it's a day and a half here, and it all really does add up.
Yeah, it's little stuff that can happen. Sometimes things out of your control. Weather being the big one, if it's not quite cooperating with you. And yeah, just, sometimes maybe supplies are a little bit late or what have you, but yeah, definitely check out the details on that. And we were talking about this just before the show, but looking at the photos, I mean, I've seen it driving by here and there, but the building is big. It's massive, and it's really hard to capture the sense of scale on certain things on cameras because it doesn't quite get it how your eyes are seeing it. But even considering that, the sense of scale here is very apparent. So it'll be much bigger in person. Mm-hmm.
What's going to be interesting as well, Casper, is going to be the convenience for people. The original building, the building that is located downtown here in Neepawa, is a little cramped, it's a little tight, and especially the back end area. If you're picking up anything like wood or any supplies or anything like that, it's really tight in there. And they got a whole setup there where it's almost like a drive-through type thing, where you're going to be able to drive in, pick up your stuff, and drive out a separate exit way. Michelle's very pleased to be able to see that come to fruition. She's very pleased about all the process, even though it is a few weeks late. It's going to be, as I said, about 8 weeks or so late, mid-March soft. The plan is a soft open, so essentially what they're going to be doing with that, if you're unfamiliar with the term, is they're just going to open up the doors, business as usual in mid-March. No pomp, no circumstance, no big balloons, no ribbon cutting at that time. But a couple months later, most likely occurring in May from what I hear, they will be doing sort of an official grand opening, a little more celebratory, saying thanks to all those who assisted and helped the process to move along, a little more festive type thing, hopefully when the weather's a little bit better as well, because anybody knows March in Neepawa can be, it can go either way. So hopefully it'll be a nice soft open for them with some nice weather. But if it isn't, they're going to still be chugging along, ready for that grand celebration in May. So it's going to be interesting. You can see in the pictures, the drywall and all that stuff on the walls isn't up yet. The insulation is still clearly visible. As well, you can see sort of the roof as it is. From what I hear, they might be keeping that open to sort of give it that cabin sort of feel to it. The sort of slight change to it, but a little something similar to that, which would be interesting to see. And it's going to be very unique for the community. That shape, that scope, that size, and it is desperately needed. We're a community that has grown so much over the last 5 to 10 years. And that type of expansion means businesses need to adapt. They need to adapt to the larger customer base, and Home Hardware is doing that. So keep watching, keep listening to the show, keep picking up the newspaper. We're going to have all the updates as this does chug along. So very appreciative of Michelle sort of giving us that tour and be able to walk through and see it with our own eyes. All right, let's get inside the pages of the Banner Press. On page 2, Casper, you got a story, a little bit of an update related to Miles for mental health.
Yeah, I talked to Dan Martin right after the holidays, pretty much, and just sort of talked with her a bit about what Miles for Mental Health had been doing over the past year. They haven't had an AGM yet, but wanted to share a bit of a recap there. So I talked to her about some of the things that Miles for Mental Health has been involved in, such as supporting the Kin Walk, the girls' fitness group that's put on in the Yellowhead, and a few other different things there as well. And the two big things that they had happen recently that they were very honored by was actually a couple of donations that they received, one from Jody Baker and the other from the family of Keith Kennedy. Keith Kennedy had passed late last year, and the donation from Jody Baker was actually in memory of Royce Hollier, who actually also passed last year too, unfortunately. So those donations were given in those people's memory, and they're always very honored to receive things like that to help support what they're doing, and encourage them that people know what we're about, and keep the conversation going, and help them support programs that assist with mental health and all that sort of stuff. And the Keith Kennedy donation was actually the first of its kind that they'd received. Until that point, they'd not received something through a family, indicating from the funeral home that a family wanted to, donate in that person's memory. So they were very honored by that as well.
Oh, that's fantastic. And it's nice to be able to get that. Sometimes as the years progress, and sometimes as we deal with situations like we have the last 2 years, some of these organizations, some of these people, they're doing this type of work, and they get lost in the cracks, they get lost in the shuffle. And especially, again, as Miles for Mental Health has not been able to sort of do a standard AGM to sort of share the message with the community like this. So it's nice to be able to get this type of update from them, and to see that things are still forging forward. So I do hope that you take a few minutes. You can find this story. It is on page 2 of the Banner Press in this week's edition, and learn a little bit about it. So, all right, let's delve a little deeper into the pages of the paper. Casper, this is something I didn't quite understand, but then I read it. And that's why you need to read a newspaper. If you don't understand something and it's in the newspaper, maybe it will help you understand it. I'm the example here right now. We got this on page 5, and it was an interesting little bit of history. Let me ask you though, where did you come across all this? The Neepawa District Chamber of Commerce had a busy year in 1976. Walk me through this.
So this is actually something that Ken brought to me. I don't recall where he said he found it or got it from, but it was this sort of brochure, I guess I could call it. It was a little 4-page total booklet, first inside, second inside, and then the back. And it was basically a program outlining the chamber meeting for 1976, of course being held in 1977 because AGM, it happens at the end of the year or start of the next year, to recap the year that just happened. And there was a lot of businesses or business people that got welcomed to the community that year. The list is quite extensive, so I'm not even going to read a couple off, just go in and check it out. But we have all that outlined on that page. And then, of course, there was directors for the chamber, officers for the chamber that were outlined on there as well. So got a little bit of that in photo form on that page too. It's
kind of interesting because we are, of course, coming up very shortly on the 2023, it'll be the 2022 edition of the Neepawa District Chamber of Commerce's annual general meeting. That'll be happening near the end of this month. We will be there to cover it. We will be there to get all the details. But it's kind of interesting to look back in the past from time to time. So these types of quirky little things I always like to be able to sort of see in there. So hopefully you'll be able to get a chance at that yourself. And of course, a few weeks from now, we'll be talking about this year's edition of the AGM. And again, maybe 46 years from now, two other people will be sitting in these chairs. Well, maybe not these chairs. Hopefully not these chairs.
Better chairs. Well, these ones are actually pretty good, but by that time you're going to need better chairs. They'll be quite worn out.
Well, hopefully 47 some odd years from now, other people will be sitting here and talking about the stories we wrote and the information we shared from this year's AGM. Hopefully it's not us. You know, I hate to say it, but doing the math in my head, chances are it's not going to be me in this chair. The math for you works out well, but not for.
I can make it.
Yeah. Maybe if I stop eating at McDonald's and whatnot, maybe I can make it. But
it's got lettuce on it, right?
Yeah, that counts. Yeah, that's healthy. That's totally healthy. Yes. So, if I want to get a little healthier, actually, maybe this is something I should have looked into. Because we've got a new exercise experience in Neepawa. It's been in Neepawa for a couple months. It's sort of, it's not stringently organized. It's sort of one individual's got some of this background information and is sharing it with the community. And boy, is the community starting to get on board with it. I'm talking about a Zumba-inspired class that is going on at the Neepawa Junior Rifle Club building. It happens every Tuesday. Every Thursday in the evening, if I remember correctly off the top of my head. It's about 6 o'clock every Tuesday, and Thursday night is happening. They also have classes on Sundays. If you wanted to go check it out yourself, everyone is welcome to go out to that. The gentleman I spoke with, Prince is the name, and he really sort of shared some great details on it with me. Prince Nico Philip Nemes, and I apologize, Prince, if I mispronounce the last name there. I know it annoys me from time to time when people mispronounce my first name. It's not, but I assure you it's not intentional, Prince. So, but I appreciate the information you were able to share with me about Zumba. I've heard of it before, Casper, but I never really sort of knew much about it. And really what it is sort of this just sort of dance fusion. Oh, here we go. Yeah, it's like this. It's an instructor and a classroom, and they go through an exercise program with dance, but it's not strict. It's not stringent like aerobics, where you have to do certain moves, or yoga, where you have to do certain things, or those types of. It's more freewheeling. I mean, you can move to your own beat, as it were, literally, as it were. The music's playing. It's about sort of getting your body up and getting it moving. Getting that heart rate going and just experiencing exercise in a different way. Because I like to exercise, but I do it the old-fashioned way. Lift up heavy things and then put them down, and then lift them up again and then put them down. That doesn't sound like much fun. I enjoy it, but it's not much fun for many people. This is fun. And that's the emphasis they have on it, Casper. They want people to come in and enjoy themselves. And I was there last Thursday. I witnessed a class for myself. You can see the pictures in the paper with this story. You can find the story itself. It is on page 7 of the Banner Press. And everyone I talked to, all the individuals I had a chance to sort of share the experience with, just emphasized how welcoming the entire experience was, how friendly everyone was, and how everyone just enjoyed themselves and moved at their own pace. Sometimes you get into an exercise program and you may feel like you have to be at a certain level or else. That's the intimidation factor. When you walk into a gym, sometimes you have that intimidation factor. You might look and you might see somebody who's as wide as they are tall. It's like, well, I can't do that. But that's not what this is about. This is about coming in and just experiencing it the way you want to experience it. And I thought that was fantastic, personally.
Yeah, for sure. I can definitely understand the sort of intimidation of going into a normal gym, because you want to do good right away.
Yeah.
Especially with the people around you, you see how good that they're doing. So it can be hard for people to, I guess, get comfortable with going into that setting and doing what they need to do. But this definitely looks like it has a bit more of a relaxing aura for people who might be otherwise intimidated by going to a gym, and still getting that good exercise in there, that good cardio to help you work yourself out.
That's right. And I got a shout out to Eleanor Taylor, who was a real champion. She's been participating pretty much right from the get-go in October. She came in, she shared the details with me, always checked in to sort of see when we could arrange to go down there and talk about this. So I'm going to give a shout out to Eleanor on that. You're a great salesperson. You really pitched it to me, but it was a fun experience. And again, even aside from that, I talked about sort of the intimidation factor of people walking into a quote-unquote standard gym or anything like that. And I got to emphasize this, though, because don't be. I've sort of been working out for decades on and off. Not as good as I used to be, not as big, as strong as I used to be. I have my moments. But when you walk into a gym, whether it's a weightlifting gym, a CrossFit gym, aerobic studio, a cycling, anything like that, the people in there, in my experience, in my 35 some odd years, I'll meet it in the middle. Anytime I've gone to a gym, they don't think about, well, this person's too short, this person's too big, this person's too lanky. It's about this person made the choice. This person made the decision. They want to improve themselves. So the moment you walk in, no matter what you look like or who you are, there's a respect factor there. There's an immediate respect factor there. Anybody at a gym knows the hard work and the fear at times that they had their first time coming in. They don't want anybody else to feel that the same way. So hopefully, whether you enjoy Zumba, whether you enjoy going to CrossFit, whether you enjoy going to just a standard gym, don't ever feel that intimidation. You're welcomed in, no matter what.
Absolutely. Everyone has to start somewhere, and sometimes you'll need some help, and that's fine.
That's right. So again, check it out. Tuesdays, Thursday nights, it's happening. There's a little bit of a fee there if you can help out just to rent the building. It's not that much, and the experience is, from what I've heard, outstanding. And from what I saw, I'd have to agree with that original estimation. All right, let's go talk about something else. We're going to just very quickly touch on this. A center spread this week in the paper. It emphasizes Manitoba Ag Days, which is coming up very shortly in Brandon. We didn't go too in-depth in there. It's the first one that's been happening in a while. Several major local businesses are participating. I believe Joel, our salesperson, is going to be there for a day. He's going to be checking out some of them. And we're going to have some pictures of that in a future edition, I'd imagine. But if you want to check out some of the information, Ag Days is center spread on page 8 and page 9 of the paper, happening again at the Keystone Center in Brandon. Keystone Center in Brandon usually hosts a lot of sports-related stuff, so let's shift over to sports then. That was an effortless segue, wasn't it, Casper?
Very fitting. Yeah.
Oh yeah, just snugged it in there. You didn't even notice. Oh, so much sports is on the go. Like it's not in this week's paper just yet, but yesterday I went to junior varsity girls basketball game, junior varsity boys basketball game. The high school hockey team, they had a game. The previous night, the varsity girls and the varsity boys had their games going. And as well, the Neepawa Farmers senior hockey team played over the weekend. Neepawa Tigers had a game on Monday as well, the hockey team. And the Neepawa Titans had a game. Oh my God. January and February is so busy for this type of stuff. And of course, minor hockey, their Tournament of Champions is this weekend. So we'll probably have pictures of that in an upcoming edition. But let me just talk real quick about the Neepawa Titans. They played the expansion team in the MJHL this year, the Niverville Nighthawks, over the weekend. They played home and home. The first game Friday night was here in Neepawa. And Saturday night they went to Niverville. And Titans are doing all right. they're doing pretty good. They have a winning record right now, and quite honestly, they have not had a winning record this late in the season in the 8+ years I've been here. I'm not saying I'm a jinx. That's not what I'm insinuating, Casper. All right, no, please don't, none of you think that either as well. It's not my fault, all right? But they have a winning record right now this late into the season, and they added to it with a overtime loss at home, but a shootout win in Niverville the very next night. So they got 3 of a possible 4 points in the standings. And the shootout as well, there were a dozen players from both teams that ended up shooting on the goaltender to sort of decide a winner. And not a single one for either team scored until the very last one. Dean Noonan for the Titans scored the one and only goal in the shootout of the 24 shots that went on. Casper, that's actually that's a rarity. That is an amazing rarity.
Yeah, I was actually going to comment on that. Of course, not being as much into sports as other people are, I don't have too much familiarity with this sort of thing, but that stuck out to me as kind of odd. So that must have been a really tough shootout for both teams.
And again, that's type of stress. But again, the Titans came out on top, which I'm very glad that they did. And I want to emphasize one other thing as well. That's why I want you to pick up a copy of the Banner Press. I want to put out a specific thank you to the organization, Junior Night in Manitoba. They cover all types of junior hockey throughout Manitoba, whether it's the MJHL, whether it's the Western Hockey League for the Wheat Kings and the Ice, whether it's AAA hockey, boys and girls. They do a tremendous job. They're based, if I remember correctly, out of Niverville and the Steinbach area, and they go all over. I contacted them about using a shot, and it's this shot here, the Cameron Trimble shot. If you want to get a better view of it, you're going to have to pick up a copy of the paper and see it for yourself. It conveys so much emotion in this picture, and I just had to reach out and say, hey, can I use this picture, please? It's common courtesy in the business. You don't use somebody else's picture without their permission. And they thankfully said, yes, thank you very much. And thank you for reaching out and asking, because they said to me, there's a few other newspapers, and I won't name which ones, that don't reach out to them, that just use them without permission. And that's not right. That's not the way you treat somebody's work. So I'm very appreciative to Junior Night in Manitoba. And the shot they took, I'm more of a wordsmith than a photographer. I'm just happy when it's focused. So what they're able to convey through the picture is just amazing. And hopefully the words you'll get something from my words to go along with those pictures. So we're coming up near the end. There's so much more we could talk about. But really, that's why you need to pick up a copy of the Neepawa Banner Press and be able to see it for yourself. As I said, all over Neepawa and the surrounding communities, you can pick up physical copies of the paper. If you're not able to, you can find it at mywestman.ca. We always upload a PDF copy or a link to issues where you can read it, just as if you were reading it in your own hands. And we always do appreciate when you contact us, maybe with story suggestions or ideas. And you can do so by contacting us at 476-3401. That's the main number that you can be reached at. They'll transfer it to us. If you want to do it by email, you can go to news@neepawabanner.com. If it's sports related, just change it up a little bit. Go with sports@neepawabanner.com. Anything like that. For example, the Tournament of Champions for minor hockey is happening this weekend in Neepawa. Any parents out there, if you got pictures or anything like that, send them my way. Always appreciative. I'd like to be able to be at all these events, as would Casper, but we do have lives of our own. So if you can help out, it's always greatly appreciated. Casper needs a weekend every once in a while, don't you?
Yeah, you too. You get bogged down with sports quite a few times throughout the year, so gotta make sure you're taking a break as well.
Well, it's fun though. So,
yeah.
And I appreciate you, the viewer, letting us do this. So each and every week, thank you for tuning in to NAC TV and checking out the story behind the stories. Have a good day.